rock bands that are starting, punk rockers. I don't care. Go to school. Learn your business. If you're going to be a musician, this is your craft.
For decades, Wayne Kramer was known as a rebel, a visionary, and one of the most uncompromising figures in rock history. As the driving force behind MC5, his guitar didn't just make noise, it challenged authority, questioned power, and gave voice to raw rebellion. But behind the distortion, the chaos, and the revolutionary spirit, there was a deeply reflective artist shaped by others long before he became a symbol himself. And only later did Wayne Kramer finally reveal the 10 musicians who influenced him most. This revelation wasn't about ranking fame or technical skill. It was about roots. About the artists whose sounds reached him at the right moment when music felt like a lifeline rather than a career. These musicians shaped his understanding of freedom, expression, and resistance. They taught him that music could be dangerous, emotional, political, and deeply human all at once. For fans who saw Kramer as fearless and confrontational, this list offers a more intimate perspective. It reveals the mentors behind the madness, the discipline behind the noise, and the emotional foundations beneath his revolutionary image. Each name carries a story of discovery, survival, and transformation that helped turn a restless young guitarist into a cultural force. This moment changes how Wayne Kramer is remembered. It shows that even the most radical artists are built on influence, gratitude, and connection. And once you understand who shaped his sound, you begin to hear his music differently, not just as rebellion, but as a tribute to the voices that lit the fire inside him. Wayne Kramer's life has never followed a straight line. Long before he was known as the fiery guitarist of MC5, before his name became synonymous with rebellion, distortion, and raw energy, he was a young musician searching for meaning through sound. Music wasn't just an outlet for Kramer, it was a lifeline, a way to channel anger, curiosity, and a deep hunger for truth. From the beginning, the artists who influenced him were not chosen for popularity, but for honesty, courage, and the ability to challenge the status quo. Growing up in Detroit, Kramer was surrounded by industrial noise, social tension, and cultural upheaval. The city shaped his worldview, and the music he absorbed reflected that environment. He gravitated toward musicians who weren't afraid to confront reality head-on, artists who used their instruments as weapons against complacency. These early influences taught him that music could be dangerous, disruptive, and transformative all at once. It didn't have to be polished to be powerful, it had to be real as MC5 emerged in the late 1960s. Kramer carried these influences into every performance. The band's sound was explosive, confrontational, and unapologetic, mirroring the spirit of the musicians Kramer admired. Behind the chaos on stage was a deep respect for those who came before him, the players who proved that music could speak truth to power. Even at the height of fame, Kramer never saw himself as separate from his influences. He saw himself as part of a lineage, carrying forward ideas that others had risked everything to express. Life, however, would test him in ways music alone could not prepare him for. Fame faded, personal struggles surfaced, and Kramer faced consequences that forced him to confront his own choices. During these years, music took on a different role. It became a source of reflection rather than rebellion. The musicians he admired were no longer just sonic inspirations. They became reminders of resilience, survival, and redemption. Their work helped him endure moments when his own voice felt lost. Work helped him endure Moyes felt lost. After decades of experience, loss, and growth, Wayne Kramer's decision to finally reveal his 10 favorite musicians carries unusual weight. This is not a casual list or a nostalgic exercise. It is a reflection of a life shaped by sound, struggle, and reinvention. Each name represents more than influence. They represent moments when music offered direction, defiance, or hope. For Kramer, acknowledging these artists publicly is an act of honesty, one that connects his past to his present. What makes this revelation especially meaningful is its timing. Looking back now, Kramer sees his journey with clarity that was impossible in youth. The musicians he honors shaped not only his playing style, but his philosophy, how he approached creativity, justice, and personal responsibility. These artists taught him that music could challenge authority, confront hypocrisy, and still leave room for humanity. Of this story is about foundation. It is about the roots of Wayne Kramer's musical identity and the voices that helped shape it. Before the list itself is revealed, it's essential to understand the life that led to it, a life marked by rebellion, consequence, and survival. Because when Kramer names his 10 favorite musicians, he isn't just talking about sound. He's telling the story of who helped him become who he is today. When Wayne Kramer finally revealed his 10 favorite musicians, it became clear that this list was not about popularity or technical perfection. It was about survival, rebellion, and truth. Each name represented a moment in his life when music didn't just entertain him, but guided him, challenged him, or helped him endure. For Kramer, these musicians were not distant heroes. They were lifelines that shaped his identity during times when chaos, addiction, and inner conflict threatened to consume him. Several of the musicians on his list came from the raw, heart of blues and early rock, artists who played with urgency rather than polish. Kramer was drawn to musicians who sounded like they had something to lose, something to prove. Their music carried grit, pain, and defiance qualities that mirrored his own worldview. He absorbed their aggressive rhythms and unapologetic honesty, later channeling those elements into Mick Five's explosive sound. These influences taught him that music could be confrontational, that it didn't need permission to exist. Jazz innovators also played a crucial role in shaping Kramer's musical thinking. Their freedom, improvisation, and refusal to obey structure fascinated him. From them, he learned that music didn't have to follow rules. It could be spontaneous, dangerous, and unpredictable. That mindset became central to his playing style, where chaos and control constantly collided. These musicians gave him the courage to break patterns, to trust instinct over tradition, and to embrace risk as part of creativity. Equally important were artists who used music as a form of protest. Kramer admired musicians who spoke uncomfortable truths and challenged political systems through sound. These influences reinforced his belief that music should matter, that it should reflect the times and confront injustice. For him, guitar riffs were not just notes, they were statements. The musicians he honored taught him that art carries responsibility, whether the world is ready to hear it or not. What makes Kramer's list especially powerful is how personal it is. Each musician is tied to a specific phase of his life, some to moments of artistic breakthrough, others to periods of darkness. During his struggles with addiction and legal trouble, certain songs became anchors, reminders that someone else had survived similar battles. These musicians didn't save him directly, but their music gave him language for emotions he couldn't articulate and strength when discipline failed. Fans were struck by how honest and unfiltered Kramer was in explaining his choices. There was no attempt to impress or rewrite history. He spoke openly about admiration, influence, and debt. In doing so, he dismantled the myth of the self-made artist. His list revealed a man shaped by others, humbled by inspiration, and grateful for the sounds that kept him alive when everything else fell apart. This revelation also reframed Kramer's legacy. His aggressive playing, political stance, and uncompromising attitude now appeared not as rebellion for rebellion's sake, but as a continuation of a musical lineage. He was carrying forward the fire that others had lit before him. The list showed that his sound was not accidental. It was inherited, studied, and lived. Ultimately, Wayne Kramer's 10 favorite musicians represent more than taste. They tell the story of a man who used music to fight despair, challenge authority, and rebuild himself. By naming them, he wasn't just honoring influence, he was acknowledging the invisible hands that guided him through chaos toward meaning. As Wayne Kramer reflected more deeply on his 10 favorite musicians, the list began to feel less like a ranking and more like a personal map of survival. Each name carried a story that intersected with a different chapter of his life, moments of rebellion, collapse, reinvention, and redemption. For Kramer, music was never just influence. It was a lifeline that pulled him through chaos and helped him rebuild when everything else fell apart. Some of the musicians on his list represented raw defiance. They showed him that music could be loud, confrontational, and unapologetically honest. In his early years, these artists gave him permission to challenge authority and question systems that felt broken. Their fearlessness fed directly into the energy of MC5, shaping a sound that wasn't designed for comfort, but for confrontation. Kramer absorbed not only their musical ideas, but their attitude, the belief that art should provoke thought, and demand change. Other musicians on the list represented discipline and craft. These were artists who demonstrated that rebellion alone wasn't enough. Precision, structure, and intention mattered just as much. Kramer often spoke about how studying their work helped him mature as a guitarist and composer. During periods when his life felt unstable, returning to the fundamentals he learned from these musicians gave him focus. Their influence grounded him, reminding him that mastery requires patience, not just passion. There were also names on the list tied to Kramer's darkest years. During times of addiction, isolation, and legal trouble, certain musicians became silent companions. Their records played in the background of moments filled with regret and reflection. These artists didn't offer escape, they offered understanding. Their music mirrored pain rather than hiding it, and that honesty helped Kramer confront his own reality. In those moments, influence became emotional rather than technical, shaping how he understood vulnerability and survival. What makes Kramer's revelations so powerful is his willingness to acknowledge how deeply intertwined his influences were with his personal struggles. Music didn't just inspire his success, it helped him endure failure. The musicians he named taught him that collapse doesn't erase worth, and that creativity can survive even the most destructive chapters of life. This understanding later became central to his advocacy work, where he used music to help others facing incarceration and addiction. Fans reading between the lines of Kramer's list began to recognize a pattern. The musicians he admired most were not perfect figures. They were flawed, driven, and often controversial artists who turned hardship into expression. That shared humanity mattered to Kramer. It reminded him that redemption is not a myth, but a process, and that art can be a bridge between who we were and who we are still trying to become. As he shared these influences publicly, Kramer wasn't seeking validation. He was offering context. He wanted people to understand that his sound, his activism, and his resilience were shaped by voices that spoke truth during times of confusion. Each musician on the list left a mark not just on his guitar playing, but on his values and worldview. This chapter of the story reveals that Wayne Kramer's legacy is not defined solely by rebellion or redemption, but by reflection. At this stage of life, naming his favorite musicians is an act of honesty. It shows how influence evolves, how inspiration becomes survival, and how music can guide a person through the longest, hardest roads. The list stands as proof that even in chaos, something meaningful can take root, and sometimes, it's a song that keeps you alive. As Wayne Kramer reflects on his life and career. The revelation of his 10 favorite musicians serves as more than a simple list, it is a testament to influence, gratitude, and the enduring power of inspiration. These artists shaped his sound, informed his approach to composition, and left marks on his philosophy as a musician that have lasted decades. Each name represents a spark that ignited creativity, a mentor in spirit, and a reminder of the artistry that propelled him to become one of rock's most respected figures. For Kramer, the list is deeply personal. It's a reflection on the moments that defined his musical identity, from the first record that made him fall in love with the guitar to the performances that challenged him to expand his own skill. Every musician on the list embodies a lesson, whether in technical brilliance, innovative expression, or emotional honesty. Their influence is not confined to notes and riffs. It is felt in Kramer's relentless pursuit of authenticity and the fearless energy he brings to every stage. The significance of this revelation extends beyond personal admiration. Fans gain insight into the lineage of rock, understanding how Kramer's sound, a blend of raw punk intensity, blues roots, and experimental flair, emerged from the inspirations he reveres. Musicians see a map of mentorship and influence, demonstrating that even legends build upon the work of those who came before. It is a reminder that creativity thrives in conversation with the past, that art is cumulative, and that honoring influences is central to growth. This reflection also offers lessons in resilience and perspective. Kramer's career has been filled with highs and lows, from international acclaim to personal challenges. Yet through it all, his musical compass remained guided by the artists he admired. By sharing these 10 names at this stage of life, he highlights the importance of gratitude, the value of mentorship, and the profound effect that other musicians can have on one's journey. Influence, he shows, is both practical and spiritual. It shapes technique and mindset alike. Fans have responded with fascination, excitement, and curiosity, exploring the music of those who molded Kramer's sound. The revelation creates bridges across generations, connecting listeners to the history of rock and exposing them to sounds and styles that might otherwise remain undiscovered. It also humanizes Kramer, showing that even iconic figures remain students of the craft, continually inspired by the work of others. Ultimately, this moment is about legacy. Wayne Kramer's artistry is inseparable from the influences he reveres, and by naming these 10 musicians, he preserves the memory and impact of the artists who inspired him. Their lessons live on through his riffs, his energy, and the music that continues to inspire new generations. It reminds us all that no musician works in isolation. That inspiration is a gift to be acknowledged. And that greatness is often a reflection of those who light the way. In the end, the list is not just about favorites, it is a testament to the dialogue between past and present, teacher and student, inspiration and creation. It cements Wayne Kramer's place in music history while honoring the artists who shaped him, leaving a legacy that will echo for decades to come. It proves that music is eternal, influence is enduring, and the threads that connect artists across time are as vital as the notes they play.